I 19M need to start this story from the beginning to help you understand just how messed up my family dynamics really are. For as long as I can remember, there's been this unwritten rule in our house: Ryan, 24M, gets whatever he wants, and I get whatever's left. It's not just about money, it's about everything. Looking back, I can pinpoint exactly when I realized how unfair things were. I was 12, and I just won first place in a regional science competition. My project was a sophisticated social media analytics tool that could track engagement patterns, pretty advanced for a middle schooler. The prize included a $500 grant for future projects. Before I could even plan how to use it, my parents made me lend it to Ryan because he'd crashed his gaming PC. Of course, he never paid me back. That was my first real lesson in how things worked in our family. When we were younger, Ryan would break something and somehow it would end up being my fault. He'd fail a test, and suddenly I'd be forced to tutor him instead of working my part-time job. Every single thing revolved around making sure the golden child never faced any real consequences for his actions. The pattern continued through high school. While Ryan bounced between different colleges, all paid for by our parents, I was quietly building my own future. I started working when I was 15, not because I particularly wanted to, but because I had to. See, while my parents were busy paying for Ryan's third attempt at community college and buying him a car after he crashed his second one, they made it clear that I would need to learn responsibility by paying for my own things. The irony of this still amazes me. For 4 solid years, I worked every job I could get my hands on. Morning shifts at the local grocery store before school, weekend shifts at a warehouse, and evening delivery runs, anything that would help me save money. But I wasn't just working mindlessly. Every job was a learning opportunity. At the grocery store, I revolutionized their inventory tracking system using a simple spreadsheet program I designed. The warehouse job taught me about supply chain logistics and business operations. Even the delivery job was valuable. I built relationships with local business owners and learned about their marketing struggles firsthand. I had this vision, this plan for starting my own online marketing business. I'd been studying the industry, learning everything I could about digital advertising and social media management. I knew exactly what I wanted to do, and more importantly, how much I would need to do it. By my 19th birthday, I had managed to save $37,000. Every single dollar earned through sweat and sacrifice while maintaining a 3.8 GPA. Meanwhile, Ryan was on his 5th career break in 2 years. He's never held a job for more than 3 months, always with the same excuses: the manager had it out for me, or the company didn't appreciate my potential. My business plan wasn't just some vague dream, I had everything meticulously mapped out. Through my various jobs, I'd identified a critical gap in the market. Small businesses were struggling with their online presence, but couldn't afford the big marketing agencies. I had spreadsheets analyzing competitor pricing, market demographics, and projected growth rates. I'd even developed a proprietary algorithm for optimizing social media engagement, something I tested successfully with several local businesses who let me manage their accounts as side projects. The really interesting part? While working these supposedly menial jobs, I was actually building my future client base. The warehouse manager owned 2 other businesses that desperately needed online marketing help. The restaurant owners I delivered for were all struggling to compete with bigger chains online. I wasn't just saving money, I was laying groundwork. What makes this whole situation even more absurd is that I've actually proven my business model works. During my senior year of high school, I helped the grocery store where I worked increase their social media engagement by 300% just by managing their Instagram and Facebook accounts during my breaks. Their online sales jumped 150% within 3 months. The owner was so impressed, he offered me a full-time position managing their online presence, but I knew I wanted to think bigger. Meanwhile, Ryan has been living in this decent apartment that our parents mostly pay for. It's not luxury, but it's perfectly fine for someone in his situation. But last month, he suddenly decided he needed to move to this upscale complex downtown. The same place where all these young professionals and startup founders live. You know, people who actually work for a living. That's when everything exploded. One night, my parents called me into the living room for a family meeting. I should have known something was up because Ryan wasn't even there. He never shows up for anything that might involve actual responsibility. My mom started with her usual guilt trip voice, "We need to talk about helping your brother. He's found this wonderful opportunity, but he needs some help with the deposit." I knew where this was going, but I still wasn't prepared for what came next. "We think you should give Ryan your savings," my dad said, like he was asking me to pass the salt at dinner. "He really needs this fresh start, and you're just sitting on that money anyway." I literally laughed because I thought they were joking. They weren't. "That's my business startup money," I said. "I've been saving it for 4 years. I have investors interested, contracts ready to sign." "Family comes first," my mom countered, cutting me off. "Ryan needs this apartment to get his life on track. Once he's in a better environment, he'll be able to focus on his career." That's when my dad dropped the ultimatum: "If you're not willing to help your brother, maybe you need to find somewhere else to live." They actually thought they could force me to hand over 4 years of hard work to my deadbeat brother. But here's what they didn't know: I'd been preparing for something like this for months. See, part of my job helping with their company's social media meant I had access to their business records. Every time Ryan needed its bailout over the past few years, I noticed suspicious patterns in their company's financial records. Being the responsible son meant they trusted me with things they probably shouldn't have. I started documenting everything months ago. Every suspicious transaction, every convenient business expense that coincided with Ryan's financial emergencies. I even had emails where they discussed categorizing his personal expenses as business deductions. They thought I was just being thorough with their social media analytics. They had no idea I was building a paper trail. The next morning, while they thought I was thinking about their offer, I met with a lawyer I'd been quietly consulting for weeks. When I showed him my documented evidence of their questionable business practices, his eyes literally lit up. We're talking years of improper deductions, misclassified personal expenses, and what my lawyer called systematic tax evasion. But that wasn't my only meeting that day. I also met with a potential investor who'd been following my work with local businesses' social media. This guy owns a chain of successful tech startups, and he'd noticed how I transformed several local businesses' online presence. I'd been building this relationship for months, keeping it completely secret from my family. The investor was particularly impressed by my proprietary engagement algorithm and my detailed market analysis. He didn't just see a kid with a dream, he saw a proven concept with documented results. By the end of our meeting, we were discussing 7-figure investment terms and aggressive expansion plans. I'd also been systematically moving my important documents and belongings to my friend's place, piece by piece. I set up a new bank account at a different bank, transferred my savings, and backed up all my business plans and evidence of my parents' financial dealings to secure cloud storage. I even had screenshots of every conversation where they promised to pay Ryan's expenses through the company. What's even better is that I've already been approached by 3 major marketing firms who've seen my work. One of them is actually located in the same upscale building where Ryan wants to live. The irony isn't lost on me: while he's begging for money to live there, I might end up owning office space in the building. The really funny part? They think they're pressuring me, but they have no idea that they've just given me the perfect opportunity to break free and potentially teach them the biggest lesson of their lives. I've already secured a small apartment I can afford with my new social media management contracts. 3 of the local businesses I helped are now signing on as full-time clients, with annual contracts worth more than Ryan's precious apartment deposit. But here's where it gets really interesting: my lawyer confirmed that several of the business expenses they used to cover Ryan's past mistakes could trigger a serious IRS audit. We're talking about potentially hundreds of thousands of dollars in improper deductions over the years. My lawyer says I'm not just in a position to protect myself, I'm in a position to make them realize exactly how badly they miscalculated. I'm writing this from my friend's house, where I've been staying while finalizing my plans. Tomorrow, I'm meeting with the investor to sign initial funding documents. We're talking about a $2 million initial investment with the possibility of another $3 million in 6 months if we hit our targets. Next week, I move into my new apartment. And soon after that, my parents and Ryan will learn that actions have consequences, and sometimes those consequences come from the person you least expected. For years, they treated me like I was nothing compared to Ryan. They're about to find out just how wrong they were. I've got my documentation, my business plan, my investor, and most importantly, my $37,000 still safely in my account. The IRS meeting is already scheduled for next month. The agent I spoke with was particularly interested in the pattern of personal expenses being written off as business deductions. My lawyer says the penalties for this kind of systematic tax evasion can be severe, not just financially, but potentially criminally. The really satisfying part? I've already registered my business name and secured all the relevant social media handles and domain names. Turns out, my parents never bothered to properly protect their company's online presence, another oversight I'll be taking advantage of. My marketing agency will be positioned to completely dominate their market segment within 6 months. Ryan still doesn't know why his perfect apartment plan isn't working out. He's been texting me angry messages about letting the family down, complaining that I'm selfish, and don't understand how hard things are for him. Each message just adds to my documentation of their behavior. He has no idea that his comfortable world is about to come crashing down. The best part? Once everything goes public, their reputation in the business community will be ruined. All those years of them showing off their successful older son while dismissing me as the irresponsible one are about to backfire spectacularly. The same business contacts who watched them favor Ryan will soon see exactly who the real success story is. Remember that irresponsibility they were so keen on teaching me? Well, they're about to learn that responsibility works both ways. And I've learned my lessons much better than they ever imagined. As I finish writing this, I just received another demanding text from my mother about family obligations. Little does she know, I'm about to teach them all about the true meaning of consequences and accountability. Sometimes the best revenge isn't just success, it's success that completely destroys those who tried to hold you back. I'll post updates as the situation develops. For now, I have some contracts to sign and an empire to build. Update 1, it's been 2 weeks since my last post, and things have moved faster than I could have imagined. First, thank you all for the supportive comments and advice. You were right, I needed to be strategic about this, and that's exactly what I've done. The investor meeting was a complete success. Not only did they agree to the $2 million initial investment, but they also introduced me to their network of tech entrepreneurs. Turns out, my social media engagement algorithm caught the attention of several major players in the industry. We're now looking at potential partnerships that could turn my small startup into a major force in digital marketing. But here's where it gets really interesting. While going through the due diligence process for the investment, my legal team discovered something shocking about my parents' company. Remember those questionable business expenses I mentioned? That was just the tip of the iceberg. We found evidence of systematic tax evasion going back at least 5 years, with Ryan's personal expenses being fraudulently classified as business deductions. We're talking about luxury car leases, vacation rentals, and even his failed attempts at starting various business ventures, all illegally written off through the company. The IRS agent I met with was particularly interested in a pattern of fake consultancy fees paid to shell companies that somehow always matched Ryan's personal expenses. My parents had been paying him a salary for work he never did, then writing it off as business expenses. The agent's exact words were, "This is one of the most blatant cases of tax fraud I've seen in years." My lawyer says we're looking at potential criminal charges, not just civil penalties. The best part? My parents still have no idea that I've documented everything. They're still sending me guilt-tripping texts about family loyalty and how I'm destroying Ryan's chances at success. Speaking of Ryan, he's been telling everyone who will listen that I'm a selfish brat who won't help family. He even tried to turn some of our relatives against me, but that backfired spectacularly when I showed them proof of how my parents had been financially favoring him for years. I've moved into my new apartment. Ironically, it's in a better building than the one Ryan was trying to get into. My business is already operational, and 3 major clients from my parents' industry have signed contracts with us. They have no idea that their precious irresponsible son is about to become their biggest competitor. The IRS investigation is moving forward, and my lawyer says we should expect things to get very interesting within the next few weeks. My parents' company is about to come under serious scrutiny, and there's absolutely nothing they can do to stop it. Remember how they threatened to kick me out if I didn't give Ryan my savings? Well, now they're about to lose a lot more than just their backup ATM. Sometimes karma needs a little push, and I'm more than happy to provide it. I'll update again when the IRS makes their move. For now, I'm focusing on building my empire while watching their house of cards start to wobble. The best revenge really is success, especially when that success comes with the power to make your oppressors face the consequences of their actions. Update 2. It's been a month since my last update, and the situation has evolved in ways I never expected. Remember the $2 million investment I secured? That was just the beginning. Our company has grown exponentially, with over 50 major clients now signed to long-term contracts. The algorithm I developed has become the talk of the tech industry, and we're currently in negotiations with several major platforms for licensing deals worth tens of millions. The best part? Many of these clients are direct competitors of my parents' business. They've been struggling to maintain their market share ever since I stopped managing their social media presence. Their engagement rates have dropped by 70%, while our clients are seeing record growth. Some of their biggest accounts have already approached us about switching services. My new office is in that upscale building downtown, yes, the same one Ryan wanted to live in. I actually bought the entire floor. The look on his face when he saw me walking into his dream building through the private executive entrance was priceless. He tried to follow me in, claiming he was just visiting his brother, but security knew better. Having your own building security team definitely has its perks. Speaking of Ryan, he and my parents have been trying desperately to damage my reputation. They started by spreading rumors in our local business community about me stealing family business secrets, claiming my algorithm was actually developed using company resources. When that didn't work, they tried contacting my clients directly with fake stories about my company's reliability. They even created fake social media accounts to leave negative reviews about our services. What they didn't realize was that every single one of these attempts was actually helping us. Each false claim was easily disproven with my extensive documentation, and their desperate actions only made them look worse. Plus, my algorithm is specifically designed to detect and track fake engagement, so their social media attacks were literally providing free case studies for our marketing team. The situation took an interesting turn last week when my parents attempted a more direct approach. They showed up at our office building unannounced, demanding to speak with me about resolving our family issues. What they actually wanted was to propose a deal. They would stop their smear campaign if I agreed to merge my company with theirs, with Ryan being installed as co-CEO. Yes, you read that right. They wanted to give a leadership position in a multi-million-dollar tech company to someone who can't even maintain a regular job. Their justification? He's family, and family businesses should stick together. I had security escort them out, but not before they threatened to expose me. Their threats backfired spectacularly. Several potential clients who witnessed their behavior immediately signed contracts with us, impressed by our professional handling of the situation. Our company valuation has actually increased since their failed takeover attempt, with investors citing our strong leadership and crisis management as key factors. The real irony? While they're busy trying to sabotage my success, their own business is falling apart. Without my social media management, they've lost most of their online presence. Their attempts to replicate my algorithm have failed miserably, and their desperate actions have only accelerated their decline. Ryan's latest move was to start telling family members that I stole his idea for the business. Apparently, he claims he mentioned wanting to do something with computers 3 years ago, and therefore my entire company is based on his concept. The relatives who once sided with them are now calling me to apologize, realizing just how delusional the whole situation has become. Our company continues to expand rapidly, and we're now in talks for international partnerships. The same week my parents were plotting to take over my company, I was signing deals to open offices in 3 different countries. Their small-time tactics look even more pathetic against the backdrop of our global success. Update 3. It's been 3 months since my last update, and everything has finally come to a head. The IRS investigation into my parents' company is complete, and the results are even more devastating than we anticipated. They found over $2.3 million in fraudulent deductions, mostly related to Ryan's personal expenses that were illegally classified as business costs. The investigators were particularly shocked by the brazenness of their scheme. They hadn't even tried to hide most of the fraudulent transactions. The aftermath was swift and severe. My parents' company is facing criminal tax fraud charges, with potential penalties exceeding $5 million. The IRS has frozen most of their business accounts, and they've already had to lay off half their staff. 3 of their office locations have been shut down completely. The irony? If they hadn't tried to force me to give up my savings, none of this would have happened. Their greed and favoritism finally caught up with them in the most spectacular way possible. Meanwhile, my company has just closed a $50 million funding round, valuing us at over $300 million. The algorithm that started as a high school project is now being implemented by major tech companies worldwide. We've opened offices in 5 countries, the main headquarters in San Francisco, with branches in London, Singapore, Toronto, and Berlin. Our client list includes several Fortune 500 companies, with a waiting list that grows longer every day. The same algorithm my parents dismissed as a hobby is now revolutionizing how major corporations approach social media engagement. Ryan's reaction to all this has been particularly entertaining. When news of the IRS investigation broke, he tried to claim he knew nothing about the fraudulent expenses, despite being the direct beneficiary of most of them. He even attempted to approach my investors, claiming he was the real genius behind the algorithm. The pitch meeting lasted exactly 3 minutes before they showed him the door. Later that day, one of the investors called me just to laugh about how Ryan couldn't even explain basic social media metrics when they questioned him. The most satisfying part came last week when my parents' company finally faced its day in court. I was there, sitting quietly in the back of the courtroom, watching as their entire facade crumbled. The judge's ruling was brutal: full repayment of all fraudulent deductions, massive fines, and a complete audit of all their business dealings for the past decade. The judge specifically cited their systematic and deliberate fraud, and their complete disregard for business ethics. Their reputation in the business community isn't just damaged, it's completely destroyed. Several business organizations have already revoked their memberships, and their former peers are distancing themselves as fast as they can. While they were in court facing tax fraud charges, I was signing a landmark deal with a major tech conglomerate. My algorithm is now being integrated into their global marketing platform, a deal worth over $100 million with potential performance bonuses that could double that figure. The same day Ryan was being questioned by IRS agents about his fake consulting fees, I was being featured in Forbes 30 Under 30. The article specifically mentioned how I built my empire from scratch, working multiple jobs while maintaining excellent grades, a detail that particularly stung my parents. Here's where it gets really interesting. Remember that upscale apartment building Ryan wanted to live in? I now own the entire complex through my real estate investment division. It's a 45-story luxury building in the heart of the tech district, now fully renovated and home to several successful startups. The day after I acquired it, I received a desperate email from my parents asking if Ryan could still get an apartment there. They even offered to pay 6 months' rent in advance, with money they clearly don't have. The irony is almost poetic. The building they once thought was too good for their responsible son is now part of his growing real estate portfolio. My parents finally tried to apologize last week, though their version of an apology was exactly what you'd expect. They sent a long email about how they didn't understand what they had, and how they only wanted what was best for the family. The email went on to suggest that we could put this unfortunate situation behind us if I would just help them with their legal fees and give Ryan another chance. Too little, too late. Their company is being dissolved, their assets are frozen, and their golden child Ryan is facing his own legal troubles for tax fraud conspiracy. The family business they spent 30 years building is now worth less than what they wanted me to lend Ryan for his apartment deposit. They're selling everything they own to pay their legal fees and tax penalties, their vacation home, their luxury cars, even my mother's precious jewelry collection. Ryan had to move back home since he can't afford rent anymore, and my parents can barely keep their house. Last I heard, they're trying to sell it, but the legal troubles have scared away most potential buyers. Meanwhile, our company just hit another milestone. We're officially the market leader in AI-driven social media optimization. Our market share has grown to 47%, more than our next 3 competitors combined. The same clients who used to work with my parents are now paying premium rates for our services. We've had to turn away business because we're growing too fast, with a waiting list of over 300 companies eager to implement our system. Our employee count has grown from 15 to 250 in just 3 months, and we're still hiring. The tech community has embraced my story as a classic tale of innovation triumphing over nepotism. Several major news outlets have covered how I turned a high school project into a tech empire while exposing systematic fraud. The Wall Street Journal did a full-page feature on my journey, contrasting my methodical approach to business with my parents' fraudulent practices. My parents have become a case study in how not to run a family business, with several business schools already including their downfall in their ethics curriculum. Last month, I received an award for young entrepreneurs at a major tech conference. The audience included many of the industry leaders who had watched my parents favor Ryan all these years. During my acceptance speech, I thanked my family for teaching me exactly what not to do in business and life. The video went viral, reaching over 5 million views in 3 days. Now, Teaching Moments has become our company's unofficial motto, appearing on everything from our office walls to our company swag. The final twist? My lawyer just informed me that due to the extent of their fraud, my parents might face actual jail time. The prosecutors are particularly interested in their attempts to sabotage my company while trying to cover up their crimes. They've uncovered evidence of my parents attempting to hack our systems, spread malicious rumors to our clients, and even trying to blackmail former employees for information about our operations. The prosecution is pushing for maximum penalties, citing their continued pattern of criminal behavior. Remember how they threatened to kick me out if I didn't give up my savings? Well, they're now facing eviction from their own home, while I'm celebrating my company's IPO announcement. Our initial valuation estimates suggest we could be looking at a multi-billion-dollar offering. Sometimes the best revenge is simply letting karma do its work, with a little help from the IRS. To everyone who supported me through this journey, thank you. And to anyone facing similar family pressure, stand your ground. Success is the best revenge, especially when it comes with legal and financial validation. The golden child has fallen, the manipulative parents have lost everything, and the irresponsible son they tried to exploit now runs a global tech empire. I couldn't have written a better ending if I tried.